I didn't hear the slap. I felt it. Not on my skin but somewhere deeper, like a bruise blooming behind my ribs, spreading through every silent room inside me. The sound wasn't physical. It was emotional. The kind of hit you take when you finally understand that someone you love has tossed you aside with the same ease they'd throw out a broken appliance. That was the moment I realized my son had betrayed me. It was 6:47 a.m., the halls of Cedar Pines nursing home buzzing with that awful buzzing fluorescence, the kind that hums just loudly enough to make you feel like you're losing your mind. A nurse, young, rushed, impersonal, handed me a styrofoam cup of watery oatmeal like she was passing out rations. She didn't say my name. She almost never did. That was when I overheard it. Her son? The one who dropped her off. A voice whispered from the hallway. He said not to call him anymore. Said he's done with the whole thing. Done. That word stuck to me like frostbite. I sat there, oatmeal cooling in my hands, the plastic spoon sinking without a ripple. I had known, on some instinctive motherly level, that Derek had been pulling away for years. But hearing it spoken aloud, hearing a stranger casually mention my own son's final dismissal of me, it felt like the floor beneath me split open. My breath shuddered out of me in pieces. I tried to inhale, but something in my chest tightened like a fist closing around my heart. Done. As if raising him hadn't taken my whole life. As if I hadn't worked double shifts so he could go to college so he could have choices I never had. As if love had an expiration date, or worse, a price tag. I whispered. He didn't even say goodbye. And despite every reason not to, the next thought came anyway. What did I do wrong? They say betrayal cracks loud enough for the soul to hear. But with family, especially your own flesh and blood, it's quieter, softer, slower. A creeping numbness, a slow suffocation disguised as duty, then indifference, then abandonment. Cedar Pines smelled like bleach, loneliness, and old coffee. The wallpaper peeled. The carpets were stained. Everything buzzed or flickered or rattled. Even the air conditioning sounded tired. The staff wasn't cruel. They were simply overwhelmed, underpaid, and numb. Kind of like Derek. No, I wouldn't let myself soften the truth this time. I'd been doing that too long, watering down the edges, convincing myself my son was simply stressed or distracted or doing his best. The betrayal wasn't sudden. It was a slow fade. A series of missed calls. A handful of "can we reschedule?" A month of silence. Then the day he brought me here with a fake cheerful voice and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It's for the best, Mom," he said, patting my hand. "Just until things stabilize." Stabilize. Another word thrown like a patch over a widening hole. I remembered gripping his sleeve as he stood to leave. "Derek, don't go. Please. Just don't leave me here." He had gently pried my fingers off him. "I'll visit," he said. He didn't. The betrayal might have ended there. Me silently disappearing into this crumbling building, reduced to a room number and a med chart. But grief has a way of turning into something sharper. Determination. Clarity. Even revenge. It started with a manila folder. I found it sitting on an empty desk at the end of the hall 3 weeks after Derek's final phone call. It wasn't even hidden. Just lying there, left behind in the chaos of understaffed shift changes. I wouldn't have touched it if the corner hadn't caught on my sweater as I walked by. I tried to place it back, but the papers spilled. Financial records, debt reports, projected bankruptcy risk assessments. Cedar Pines was circling the drain, weeks, maybe months away from shutting down. My pulse stumbled. I shouldn't have looked. But something inside me, a part Derek had smothered with his abandonment, woke up. I used to handle accounts for small businesses. People forget older women had lives before they got old. The numbers were clear. Cedar Pines was cheap because it was dying. And suddenly I saw an opportunity. For power. For safety. For something I wasn't ready to name yet. Over the next few weeks I asked questions quietly, softly, invisibly. Older women are good at that. We've lived long enough to master the art of being underestimated. I learned the owner was drowning in debt. I learned the property was days away from foreclosure. I learned the staff had missed 2 paychecks. I learned the board wanted out desperately. The more I discovered, the more the numb ache inside me began turning into something hot, forging itself into edges sharp enough to cut. Derek might have abandoned me, But I wasn't helpless. And I wasn't done. Not yet. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. The owner, a thin man whose hairpiece fooled no one, knocked on my door. "Mrs. Hale? May I speak with you?" I had to fight not to smile. We sat. He rambled. He tried to impress me with words he didn't fully understand. Equity, deficits, risk mitigation. But all I heard was desperation. He needed a buyer. A quiet one. A fast one. Someone with nothing to lose. He had no idea he was handing me the keys to my own liberation. By Friday afternoon, the papers were drafted. By Tuesday morning I had signed. Every penny I had. My savings, my inheritance, the emergency fund Derek never knew about, went into Cedar Pines. It didn't feel like a loss. Felt like waking up. The staff didn't know at first. Most of the residents didn't either. I kept my ownership quiet. Silent. Hidden, like a secret buried beneath dust. I walked the halls as usual. Ate the same cafeteria food. Sat by the same window during afternoons, letting sunlight paint warmth on my thinning skin. People talked around me like I was furniture. I listened. I learned. And slowly, I rebuilt. I hired new nurses. Approved overdue payroll. Repaired wings the previous owner ignored. Added fresh paint, new lighting, real bedding. The place began to breathe again. And so did I. But it wasn't until I overheard one particular conversation that everything snapped into its final place. "Isn't that the lady whose son dumped her here?" a nurse murmured. "Yeah. I heard he hasn't visited since. Probably waiting for her to die." The silence that followed cracked open something in me. Not sadness. Not grief. Purpose. He left me here to disappear. But now? Now this place belonged to me. And I was done disappearing. So the first thing I did as the rightful owner of Cedar Pines was simple. I requested the resident intake log. Flipped to the emergency contact section. Found Derek's name. Found his address. And with a pen that didn't shake, I moved him to the eviction notification list. Because abandoning your mother has consequences. And mine were only beginning. I didn't sleep the night before the eviction notices were delivered. Not because of guilt, though a small trembling part of me searched for it, but because of the strange electric anticipation humming through me. Something sharp, long buried, was stretching awake inside my chest. By morning, Cedar Pines smelled different. Brighter. Warmer. Alive. Sunlight spilled through the windows like someone had turned on the sky just for us. Even the floors, freshly polished the day before, gleamed. As staff passed my room, they smiled at me now. Not all of them, some still didn't know who I really was, but enough. Enough to feel the shift. But beneath that warmth was something darker. Colder. Something that tasted like justice. I walked the halls slowly, feeling the quiet thrum of power in each step. At 70 years old, I had thought my greatest days were behind me. Buried under years of sacrifice and motherhood and loneliness. But I was wrong. My rebirth began the moment Derek gave up on me. At 11:03 a.m., a sharp knock echoed on my door. Miss Carver, the new administrator I'd hired. A sharp woman with silver hair, a spine of steel and eyes that saw everything, stood in the doorway holding a clipboard. "It's done," she said softly. I exhaled. Not relief. Not satisfaction. Something deeper. "Thank you," I said, steadying myself with the arm of my chair. She hesitated. "Do you want to know if he's called yet?" "No," I said. "He won't. Not yet. Because Derek never called unless he needed something. And he had no idea how badly he needed something now. Not yet." It took less than 3 hours. 3 hours before the phone at the administrator's desk rang. 3 hours before Miss Carver found me in the sunroom. 3 hours before she cleared her throat and said, "It's him." I didn't move at first. I watched dust motes float through the sunlight like tiny drifting worlds. I watched a sparrow land on the sill beyond the glass. Then I said, "Let him wait." Miss Carver nodded. "Of course." He waited exactly 11 minutes before calling again. The third time he left a voicemail. The fourth time he sounded angry. The fifth desperate. Only then did I nod for her to transfer the call. His voice exploded through the line. "Mom? What the hell is going on? I just got an eviction notice from some nursing home? With your signature on it? What is this?" "Oh, Derek, I murmured, leaning back in my chair. I was wondering when you'd call. There was a small, sharp silence. Mom, he said again, slower, more controlled. Why is my name on an eviction list? Because, I replied gently, I put it there. He sputtered, you what? Why? Mom, are you confused? Did someone make you sign something? Are you being manipulated? Ah, there it was. Not concern. Not love. Control. Always control. No, Derek, I said, voice steady. But I understand why you'd assume that. You've always believed I couldn't make decisions without you. That's not what Mom, this isn't funny. My landlord says I have 30 days to vacate. Yes, I said. Standard policy. What policy? You don't even own. He stopped. And in that pause I felt the world tilt. Just slightly. Just enough. You. His voice cracked. You bought it. Not asked. Not questioned. Just realized. Yes, I said softly. I own Cedar Pines. I bought it months ago. The line went dead silent. I could hear his shock through the phone, thick, choking, almost physical. For a moment I imagined him sitting in his expensive chair, mouth open, eyes wide, the same way he used to look when he was a boy caught lying. Why? He whispered. There it was. The question that finally mattered. Because you left me here, I said. Without visiting. Without calling. Without checking if I was safe. You left me like I was disposable. That's not true. It is, I said. Calm. Clear. And do you want to know something, Derek? I allowed a tiny razor-thin smile to curl at my lips. Every betrayal deserves a consequence. That's insane, he snapped. You're evicting your own son? No, I said quietly. You evicted me first. He said nothing. I continued. You abandoned me in a place you never bothered to research. A place that was falling apart. A place where I could have died from neglect. And you didn't care. His breathing grew uneven. I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed for 30 years. I cut in. But I never left you. The truth slammed into the silence like thunder. Later that day, Derek showed up in person. He stormed through the front doors, his face red, hair disheveled, eyes wild. Staff members froze as he shouted for me, demanded to see me, insisted he had rights. He didn't. Miss Carver stood between us like a polished blade. Sir, you'll lower your voice or you'll be escorted out. He shoved past her. Or tried to. A security guard stepped forward. Derek stumbled back. I watched the scene unfold from the end of the hallway, hands folded calmly in front of me. His eyes snapped to mine. Mom! He breathed, full of outrage and disbelief. You're seriously doing this? I walked toward him slowly, each step deliberate. You left me to rot. I was stressed. I had bills. Work. You had excuses, I said. Another step. You always had excuses. Every birthday you missed. Every Christmas you cut short. Every promise you broke. I forgave all of it. But this. I gestured to the building around us. This wasn't a bad week or a forgotten call, Derek. This was abandonment. He shook his head violently, as if denying the obvious made it untrue. I put you here because I thought you'd be safe. I thought it was a good option. No, I corrected. You put me here because it was easier. His face crumpled. Not with guilt. Not with love. With fear. Fear of losing access. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing whatever financial future he imagined I owed him. Please, Mom, he whispered, voice cracking. Don't do this. I'm your son. I stepped close enough to see the panic trembling in his pupils. And I am your mother, I said. Not your burden. Not your afterthought. Not your responsibility to escape. A long pause stretched between us. But I am done being the one you throw away. His lips parted. His voice broke. Mom, please. I felt the sting in my chest like a bruise. Some part of me, the part that fed him, kissed his scraped knees, waited up for him as a teenager. But pain didn't erase truth. I leaned forward, lowering my voice until it was a whisper sharp enough to cut. You left me here to disappear, Derek. Now it's your turn to learn what disappearing feels like. He flinched. I straightened, nodded to security. Escort Mr. Hale off the property. He reached for me, but the guards were faster. Mom! Oh, you can't do this, he shouted as they dragged him backward. But I could. And I did. The doors shut behind him with a quiet final click. Silence washed over the lobby like a tide. Miss Carver approached me gently. Are you all right? I inhaled. Deep. Steady. Yes, I said. For the first time in a very long time, yes. I turned toward the hallway, walking back into the building I now owned, surrounded by people who saw me. Not as a burden but as a force. And behind me outside, my son finally understood what it felt like to be left standing alone. Exactly as he had left me.